What is up, guys? Delboy here. So the return of Jarrett Hurd has been announced. He is going to be fighting on the 11th of May against his IBF mandatory challenger, Julian Williams. Jarrett Hurd's IBF and WBA super welterweight titles will be on the line in this fight. And I've got to say, I think this is a decent fight, and I believe it will be a fun watch, to be quite honest. I think it's a good style clash, and it should gel for a good fight. Obviously, Jarrett Hurd is the favourite, but, Julian Williams is a decent title challenger. He's top 10 rated in the division, and he himself is a former world title challenger. So Julian Williams, he's not coming here to make up the numbers. He's not going there for a payday. He's coming to win. He's going in there with ambition, and he's going in there to become a world champion. So, Julian Williams should make for a good test for Jarrett Hurd. In fact, skill for skill, you would argue Julian Williams is a more talented fighter than Jarrett Hurd. Julian Williams has far better punch technique. He's got a better jab, a better understanding of distance, and also a better defense. But the issue is, for Julian Williams, he's the much smaller man in this fight. Jarrett Hurd is a lot bigger than Julian Williams, and also I believe Jarrett Hurd has a style that gives Williams problems. I think Williams has struggled with aggressive fighters in the past. I mean, go back and watch the fights with Ishii Smith and Nathaniel Gallimore. Both of those guys, are fairly limited, but they were fighting aggressively in those fights, and they both gave Julian Williams some problems. Julian Williams is the type, if you let him have space and you let him box, he looks good, he looks smooth, he looks calm, he looks composed. But when you put it on him and take him out of his comfort zone, I think he loses composure and he starts to fall to bits. Similar to Tony Harrison in that sense. I mean, we kind of saw that with the Jamal Charlo fight. When both guys were standing off each other boxing, arguably Julian Williams was getting the better of it. But once Jamal landed hard punches on the chin, you could tell that was it for Julian Williams. He couldn't take the shots, and the game plan went out of the window. So I don't think Julian Williams deals with pressure very well. I don't think his composure is great when he is dealing with pressure. And also, I do kind of question his chin. Not only has he been knocked out, but he was buzzed a couple of times against Nathaniel Gallimore. Ishii Smith was getting to him at times, and I think that's a worry going into a fight with Jarrett Hurd. As we know, Jarrett Hurd is a massive guy for the weight. For a big guy, he's a really good inside fighter. He works the body, he comes up the middle with uppercuts, throws hooks around the side, looping shots over the top. He's a buzzsaw up close, and he applies pressure very well. He's got a great gas tank, he has a very high punch output, and he just doesn't tire, and he's very aggressive. And I believe that style is all wrong for Julian Williams. Like I said, Julian Williams looks like a great boxer when you give him time, space, and freedom to box. But when you put it on him, I do believe he will fall apart. And that's what I expect to happen in this fight. I believe Julian Williams, early on in this fight, when he's fresh, I think he'll look good. Arguably, he will be outboxing Jarrett Hurd for the early rounds. But as the fight wears on, as the fight gets into the mid-rounds and beyond, I think that's when Jarrett Hurd will start to take over and, beat up Julian Williams down the stretch. That's what I expect to happen. But like I said, Julian Williams is a decent fighter. He does have good technical ability. He's a skilled fighter. And, maybe, just maybe, one thing I will say, maybe it's the perfect time to get Jarrett Hurd, because Jarrett Hurd, I believe, has had a shoulder injury, and, he had a comeback fight on the Wilder Fury undercard against Jason Welborn. Jason Welborn is a fighter from the UK, a guy who was severely undersized against Jarrett Hurd, and basically just a domestic fighter. And he gave Jarrett Hurd problems. He really did. Jarrett Hurd didn't look good in that fight at all. And maybe the shoulder isn't quite right for Jarrett Hurd. Maybe Jarrett Hurd still doesn't trust that shoulder. Maybe his confidence isn't where it was after the Lara fight. It's interesting. Maybe, just maybe, Julian Williams is catching Jarrett Hurd at a good time. But that's the only real hope I give him. If Jarrett Hurd isn't 100% and if Jarrett Hurd isn't confident. But, you know, apart from that, I do believe stylistically this fight favours Jarrett Hurd in a big way. He's bigger, he's stronger, you know, he's got a better gas tank, and I just believe he's going to get on top of Julian Williams and beat him up on the inside. I actually think Jarrett Hurd is a better inside fighter than Julian Williams, to be quite honest. But yeah, I make Jarrett Hurd a favourite, but it's a good fight. Julian Williams is a decent title challenger in my opinion. He's top 10 rated and he is a mandatory challenger, so I've got no problem with this fight whatsoever. Also, interestingly, on the undercard, we have the return of Matt Korobov. Matt Korobov obviously is coming off a loss to Jamal Charlo. He ran Jamal Charlo very close in that fight and was outboxing Jamal Charlo through large periods of that fight, and he makes his return against Emmanuel Alim. I think that fight could be quite fun. Emmanuel Alim has been involved in a couple of fun fights already. Go and watch his fights with Hugo Centeno Jr. He got knocked out in that fight, but, you know, it was a fun fight. And also his fight against Evgen Kairatov. He beat Kairatov by a knockout in that fight, and Kairatov at the time was viewed as a bit of a prospect. So Korobov versus Alim could be a fun fight on the undercard, so that's also worth looking out for. But yeah, Jarrett Hurd versus Julian Williams, in my opinion, is a fairly good fight and certainly an acceptable fight. Share your thoughts below. Peace.